had an act called as the Forest Conservation Act. So first, the theory. So we are not going directly to the current affairs article. We are going to the theory called what is Forest Conservation Act. The Forest Conservation Act 1980, it deals with two things. Deals with de-reservation of forest and use of forest for non-forest purposes. Now, it deals with restriction. Restriction on whom? Restriction on the state government. So what does the 1980 Forest Conservation Act says is, if you remember, there were certain areas in India called as the reserve forest. Yeah. So now, as you may be aware, forest as an area, environment and forest as an area, it comes under concurrent list. So both the center and the state can make laws. State government can de-reserve the forest unless there is a central government law which prohibits that. That central government law is the Forest Conservation Act 1980. So it says before the state government does de-reservation or uses a forest land for non-forest purpose. So non-forest is anything else, agriculture, industrial purpose, anything other than afforestation is non-forest purpose. Okay. So in those things, the state government has to take prior approval of the central government, prior permission from the central government. In simple terms, this is what Forest Conservation Act is. Now, what is the purpose? The purpose obviously is to prevent the state government from indiscriminately using the forest land, for non-forest purposes. Yeah, which means it helps to prevent deforestation. In very simple language, you can say it helps to prevent deforestation. Now, what happened was this definition of the term forest. This came in for discussion in a case, a very landmark case. Normally, till this case happened in 1996, forest meant forest. The definition of forest was as per the definition of Indian Forest Act 1927 or local law, all those forests which are under the forest department. So these were the three terms that govern what forest is. Okay, forest as defined in the Indian Forest Act, or if there is any local law, or if it is the control of the forest department. So in 1996, there was this gentleman by this name, Godavarman. So this is a very important case, guys. When it comes to environmental legislation, I want you to remember this. Godavarman Tirumulpath case. So he was actually a very descendant of one of this royal families, and their family had actually, because after independence, they had to give the land to in this case, the government of Kerala. So after giving, and this forest land that was given to the government of Kerala was the pristine Nilgiri region. Okay. So what this guy saw was, after the land had gone to the state, the extent of deforestation or the pace of deforestation had increased. Somehow, the state government was able to argue that the forest in those patches of Nilgiri did not fit in any of this definition. They were able to argue. Okay, the case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court gave a landmark judgment. So this is known as the Godavarman case. The Supreme Court gave a landmark judgment. First, the Supreme Court expanded the meaning of forest. It says, okay, Indian Forest Act is fine, but let us go with the dictionary meaning of forest. So the Supreme Court says we will expand forest to include all thickly wooded areas. That's how a dictionary would define forest. Okay. Now it says that the Forest Conservation Act 1980, which was defining forest as per the Indian Forest Act 1927, will henceforth define forest by the dictionary meaning, irrespective of their ownership, whether it's a private land, whether it's a community land, whether its area is owned by the state government or the central government. We will go with the dictionary meaning of forest. So what it did in one stroke, it brought to focus the problem of illegal lumbering or illegal logging of forest all across India. Suddenly there were, because now this became, the Supreme Court had said a lot of illegal activities around forest, which were basically hiding because of the definition of forest, they could no longer do that. So this was one very important judgment of the Supreme Court related to forest. Interestingly, this 1996 is also the time when you had this Taj trapezium case. You remember it when we talked about the Taj trapezium case. So at that time, the Supreme Court was very active in environmental related legislation. Okay. So the states were directed to form expert committees. So this is fine. This we have discussed. Yeah, what the Supreme Court did, that because forest, conservation, all of them are technical matters, it asked for the formation of a central empowered committee. So when we touched about Taj trapezium, Indian Railways is double laning a particular road, and that slide you see, I would have mentioned this central empowered committee. So the central empowered committee has to say yes, we can go ahead. Okay. So and this central empowered committee concept was given by Supreme Court way back in 2002. Now that one single judgment had repercussions for several years together. Because what happens in Supreme Court, as we always know, you can quote the previous Supreme Court judgment. So whenever an environmentalist was filing a case, he could always, quote this Godavarman Tirmal Path case and say, as per this, the Supreme Court had decided. By quoting this case, many important environmental friendly measures were taken. Stoppage of mining in Kudremukh. Have you heard of Kudremukh? Which state is Kudremukh, guys? Any idea? Kudremukh? State of India, Karnataka. Excellent, Karnataka. And what is to be mined there? Which mineral? Major mineral Kudremukh, any idea? Yes, correct. It's iron ore. Iron ore is there. Now, it also had a similar prohibition of marble mining in Aravali. So, Aravali generally is a very neglected area. There was marble mining in Aravali, which was also stopped, quoting the same judgment. Regulation of sawmills. So, sawmill means the place where the processing of wood happens. Okay. So, the Forest Conservation Act itself, if you see, it is only this much. Yeah. Then it is the Supreme Court judgment which covers the rest of our slides. Now, why is this case important? For the first time, and this is very interesting, for the first time, the Supreme Court also was able to guide or lay guidelines on saying that when we destroy a forest, okay, how do we calculate the amount of compensation? So, the first time, the concept of net present value. So, what I want you to do is that net present value, by the way, is a term that all businesses use when you have to start a business. In simple words, what is net present value? Net present value means if I start a business and let's say I need to put 1 crore into it. Okay. Now, whether the business will be profitable or not, I take my proposal. I'm slightly moving from the forest because net present value is more of an economic / commercial term, usually used by startups also. Net present value means I have a startup idea, but I think for me to realize the startup idea, I need 1 crore of investment. So, and I go to an investor. I say, hey, I need 1 crore of money because look, the cash flow for the next 10 years is like this. And if what is net present value? Suppose I say, hey, my initial investment is at 1 crore, and for the next 10 years, I will get 10 lakhs every year. So 10 lakhs every year means what? At the end of 10th year, I am breaking even. But that is incorrect. Why? Because 10 lakhs at the 10th year, its current value is going to be less. Yeah. So net present value is a principle used to identify the current value of a future cash flow. A lot of sites which give formula and examples. If you want, you can research. I think it is a useful thing for you to research. So I encourage you to research a little bit more about net present value. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. If you ask me, I can also share. So for the first time, why is net present? Okay, so that is the startup idea, but why is or how is net present value important in a forest? Suppose I am a private developer. It is proven that the forest area, after taking the necessary approval, able to remove the forest area. Now, how much should I pay? One component of payment is very simple. I need to do afforestation. This is related to another concept called compensatory afforestation. I'm clubbing this both. I am a private party. I have to destroy a forest because I need to build something. And I imagine I have taken all approvals from center, state, all bodies have taken. Okay. Now the question comes, how much should I pay? The first component of pay is I will have to do afforestation. Suppose I've destroyed 100 acres of forest. For planting 100 acres of plant, I need some money. Yeah, I need to buy the saplings. I need to secure another land of similar area, and then I need to employ people. That amount of cash flow is there. There is a second component of money that I need to pay, which is the net present value, which is nothing but for my new land where I'm just growing the trees, for it to reach the current forest which I have deforested, it will take 50 years. So in those 50 years, yeah, the forest area that I have destroyed, it would have given me produce, no? It could have given me honey, it could have given me non-timber forest produce, it could have given me timber, it could have given me maybe medicinal crops. All those values I will add up, and there I will tell him, in addition to the amount that you need to pay for afforestation, which is the first component of the compensation, you also need to pay the net present value of this forest which you have destroyed. So this concept was given by Supreme Court in this judgment in 2002, and from there on, this concept has been used in compensatory afforestation, which we will discuss shortly. It also established this compensatory afforestation and CAMPA, compensatory afforestation fund management and protection agency, and it also said that for any commercial activities in protected areas, prior Supreme Court approval is required. So who will go all the way up to Supreme Court? Anyway, they know that they won't have a chance. So this case, Godavarman case, is considered as a watershed movement in environmental legislation. It started in 1996, and there were subsequent judgments all the way up to 2002. Okay. Now, so this is our part A, which is about the Forest Conservation Act, in which we discussed. Then we discussed part B, which was amendment. See, there were two major amendments, one in 88 and one in 96. Then I talked about the 96 amendment. So we are still in the forest conservation. Now the thing comes, why is the need for amendment again? Why? So far there is no bill for your information. There is no bill, therefore there is no act. What they have done is the Ministry of Environment and Forest in October had released a consultative paper. To do what? To do away approaching the center for permission to use forest land for non-forest purpose. So go back to the act. What does it say? Take prior permission from the central government. This part they want to dilute. Is it clear? So that is the purpose of it. Which means, in a way, trying to turn back the clock and make it easy for the infrastructure projects to be implemented in forest area.